Why is your cat such an asshole? It is a reasonable question, and one that has been suppressed by do-gooding cat advocates for decades. However, due to unprecedented public demand, we are finally prepared to address this troubling issue. For those who seek brevity, the answer is simple. Your cat is an asshole. However, for those of a more inquisitive disposition, we shall examine the evidence with good old-fashioned scientific rigour. So, at long last, why exactly is your cat such an unquestionable asshole? Having recently become the owner of a tiny orange criminal, and having witnessed firsthand his many atrocities, I decided it was time to investigate his remorseless shenanigans. And, after many hours of rigorous study, I was forced to confront a disturbing possibility. Your cat may not simply be an asshole. Your cat may be an asshole for scientifically fascinating reasons. The first thing we must understand is that your cat is not fully domesticated, not in the way a dog is domesticated. A dog looks at a human and thinks, excellent, a leader, a friend, a source of food, shelter, emotional validation, and possibly cheese. A cat looks at a human and thinks, large, warm furniture. This is because cats did not enter human civilization by becoming obedient servants. They entered human civilization by noticing that wherever humans stored grain, mice turned up. And wherever mice turned up, so did cats. In other words, cats were not invited into our homes because they were friendly. They were invited because they were useful little murderers. And somewhere along the line, humanity made a catastrophic error. We looked at these tiny predators with their knives for hands and eyes full of ancient violence and said, "Oh, let's let that sleep on the bed." This is important because your cat's brain is still running a surprisingly old operating system, one that was designed for stalking, pouncing, climbing, scratching, ambushing, and occasionally staring into empty corners like it can see something you cannot. So when your cat launches itself across the room at 2 a.m., attacks your ankle, then disappears behind the sofa like a war criminal fleeing The Hague, it is not necessarily being evil. It is simply expressing its ancestral instincts in the most inconvenient way possible. Once we accept that your cat is basically a tiny predator in a decorative collar, many of its more troubling behaviors begin to make sense. Not acceptable, just sense. Cats are hunters, small, elegant, highly skilled hunters who have somehow convinced humans to pay for their food while they practice violence recreationally. This is why your cat stalks invisible enemies. This is why it hides behind furniture. This is why it suddenly attacks your foot as you walk past, then looks surprised when you object to being mugged in your own home. To the cat, this is not madness, this is training. Every pounce is practice, every ambush is rehearsal. Every time it leaps sideways down a hallway like a malfunctioning crab, it is refining the ancient art of not getting eaten while trying to eat something else. This is also why cats love fast-moving objects. String, feathers, laser dots, your toes under a blanket. Especially your toes under a blanket. To you, this is bedtime. To your cat, this is a suspicious burrowing creature that has foolishly entered the kill zone. And once the kill zone has been declared, there is very little diplomacy can achieve. So yes, when your cat attacks your feet, it may appear to be an act of betrayal, but scientifically speaking, your foot has been classified as prey. And tragically, the paperwork is already complete. Another major piece of evidence in the case against cats is their strange and deeply suspicious habit of knocking things off tables. A pen, a glass, a phone, a priceless family heirloom, your hopes, your dreams, anything really. If it can be placed on a surface, your cat will eventually look at it and think, what happens if gravity gets involved? Now, some so-called experts will tell you this behaviour is driven by curiosity. Cats explore the world with their paws, they test objects, they investigate movement, they are learning about their environment. And technically, this is true. But it does not fully explain the eye contact, because every cat owner knows the exact moment. Your cat looks at the object, then it looks at you, then it looks back at the object. And in that tiny, silent courtroom, the verdict has already been reached. The object must fall. There is no appeal. From a scientific perspective, your cat may simply be testing cause and effect. From a human perspective, it has committed a targeted act of domestic vandalism. And the worst part is that once the object hits the floor, the cat often appears mildly disappointed, as though it expected something more dramatic. Perhaps an explosion. Perhaps a tiny orchestra. Perhaps the collapse of Western civilization. Instead, it is just your phone case on the carpet. Still, useful data has been collected, and the experiment will be repeated tomorrow. Perhaps the most alarming evidence against cats is their complete disregard for the human sleep cycle. You may believe that nighttime is for resting. Your cat disagrees. Your cat believes nighttime is for sprinting down the hallway, attacking invisible spirits, screaming at closed doors, and conducting high-speed parkour across furniture you still technically own. This is because cats are not built around your schedule. Cats are crepuscular, which is a fancy scientific word meaning most active at dawn and dusk. Unfortunately, many cats interpret this as any time you have just fallen asleep. At approximately 3:17 a.m., the transformation begins. The sweet little creature who spent the evening curled up like an innocent cinnamon roll is gone. In its place stands a wide-eyed goblin powered by moonlight, unresolved hunting instincts, and possibly demons. It will run, it will leap, it will knock something over in another room and then refuse to explain itself. It may sit outside your bedroom door and sing the ancient song of its people, a sound somewhere between a lonely ghost, a broken trumpet, and a small Victorian child trapped in a chimney. And if you get up to investigate, the cat will immediately act as if nothing happened. Because, as far as it is concerned, nothing did happen. This was simply routine night patrol, a necessary inspection of the kingdom. And yes, your REM sleep was destroyed, but the perimeter is secure. Another deeply confusing feature of cats is their ability to switch from loving companion to tiny stabbing incident with almost no warning. One moment your cat is purring, rubbing its face against you, blinking slowly, possibly even allowing you the honour of touching the sacred fur. And naturally you think, wonderful, we are bonding. This is friendship. This is trust. This is the beautiful ancient connection between human and animal. Then suddenly, bite. No explanation, no apology, no meaningful attempt at restorative justice. Just a small set of teeth applied directly to the hand that was, moments ago, providing affection. Now, science does have an explanation for this. Cats can become overstimulated. Too much petting, too much contact, or touching the wrong area for slightly too long can flip a switch in the feline brain. The cat goes from "this is pleasant" to "this has become unacceptable." Unfortunately, the warning signs can be subtle: a twitching tail, flattened ears, skin rippling along the back, a slight shift in body tension, the sort of things you might notice if you were a trained animal behaviorist or another cat. But you are not another cat. You are a large, poorly trained ape who thought the purring meant everything was fine. And to be fair, that does seem like a reasonable assumption. But cats operate by different rules. Affection is granted, then monitored, then revoked. Sometimes peacefully, sometimes through violence. So when your cat suddenly bites you halfway through what appeared to be a tender emotional moment, it may not be betrayal. It may simply be the feline version of saying, "Thank you, that will be enough." Another important factor in feline arseholery is territory. Your cat does not think of your home as your home. That was your first mistake. Your cat thinks of your home as a complex strategic environment containing food stations, observation posts, sleeping zones, disputed borders, and several doors that should obviously be open. All doors, at all times. This is because cats are territorial animals. They like to know what is happening in their environment. They like access. They like control. They like being able to move freely through the kingdom, inspecting every room, window, cupboard, box, bag, chair, shelf, and mysterious gap behind the washing machine. A closed door, therefore, is not just a closed door. It is an insult, a constitutional crisis, a direct challenge to the cat's authority. This is why your cat may scream to be let into a room, enter the room, immediately decide it does not want to be in the room, and then scream to be let out again. To the untrained observer, this looks stupid, but to the cat, the important thing was never the room. It was access to the room, the right to enter, the right to leave, the right to stand halfway through the doorway while all the heat escapes from the house. Cats also like predictable routines: food at the correct time, play at the correct time, windows available for surveillance, favourite sleeping spots left undisturbed. And if you interfere with these systems, your cat may respond with confusion, irritation, or a long stare that suggests it is reconsidering the entire relationship. In short, your cat is not merely living in your house. Your cat is managing a small authoritarian state. You are not the owner. You are infrastructure. Useful, warm, occasionally late with breakfast, but infrastructure nonetheless. Despite all this, cats are not cold-hearted monsters, annoyingly. They do form real bonds with humans. They recognize us. They learn our routines. They seek comfort, safety, warmth, food, attention, and occasionally emotional support. They may follow you from room to room, sleep near you, blink slowly at you, sit beside you while pretending this was entirely their idea. But the important thing to understand is that cat affection is not like dog affection. A dog loves you like you are the center of the universe. A cat loves you like a powerful noble has granted you limited access to its private chambers. It is real, it is meaningful, but it is very much on their terms. So, when your cat ignores you all day, then suddenly climbs onto you the moment you are busy, this is not hypocrisy, this is policy, and you are expected to comply. So, after reviewing the evidence, what can we conclude? Is your cat evil? Probably not. Is your cat deliberately trying to ruin your life? Only sometimes. The truth is more complicated. Your cat is a semi-domesticated predator with ancient instincts, strong opinions, poor respect for boundaries, and a deeply suspicious relationship with gravity. It is not simply being difficult, it is hunting, testing, exploring, controlling territory, demanding access, rejecting affection, then demanding affection, then rejecting it again. In other words, science does not prove that your cat is not an arsehole. If anything, science reveals something far more troubling. Your cat is an arsehole for many fascinating and well-supported reasons. And yet, despite the chaos, the biting, the screaming, the broken objects, and the complete disregard for your legal ownership of the home, we love them anyway. Because every so often, between the crimes, they curl up beside us, they purr, they blink slowly, they trust us, and for one brief, beautiful moment, we forget the truth, until something falls off a table in the next room.